everything in this world is healable. Everything. It does not matter what you've been through, what your ancestors have been through, what your parents have been through. You are worthy of this healing. And especially if you're listening to this right now, not only are you worthy, but you're ready. So it just starts with the first step of realizing that there's tools out there to help you and to reaching out for help, because not only are you worthy, but your children are worthy and your future generations are worthy. So it doesn't matter what it is healable, I promise, because if I did it, so can you.
Hello and welcome to the I Love Me Lab show. My name is Gail Buck and I'm an NLP Master Life Coach, meditation instructor, and a seeker of happiness. And each week, we're going to bring you an inspiring person or message to help you discover additional ways of self-care, self-love, and becoming a healthier, happier you. So thanks for spending time with us today, and let's let the show begin. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the I Love Me Lab podcast. I am so excited today to introduce you to a young, old friend of mine. Sometimes when I say old friend, it's like, no, you're not. You're young and you're beautiful. And her name is Veronica Barragan. If the accent is a little tough for some of you. And Veronica, welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you very much, Gail. It's such an honor to be back here on your podcast, especially like you said, old friend, but definitely to just catch up. I'd love to catch up with everything also that you're doing too, my friend.
Yeah. So Veronica and I go way back. I mean, back when the whole real estate market was kind of crazy back in 2007, 8, 9, through 12, through that period of time, we were both pretty big brokers working in the REO, the foreclosure space. And that's where we met. And everything was fast and furious and wonderful and challenging and wonderful and terrible all at the same time. And so I want to hear about your journey, because I burnt out about 2014 and I left, and I circled back with you and I started seeing you on social media and all the beautiful things you were doing. And I saw that you had kind of taken a different path as well. So can you share a little bit about that?
For sure. So yeah, I remember when we reconnected and you asked me what had been happening in my life. And first, you were such a big impact and have always been a big impact in my life. You, an amazing leader, a mentor for me. If it wasn't for you during those times in my real estate career, which I was just taking off, I don't think I would have been able to get to a lot of the places where I did get as it relates to my leadership and community. So I want to say thank you for always being a badass, for being a powerhouse, and for showing me so much about what it means to really be a sovereign woman, which is really what I help women reach now in their lives. And so, like you and I know that we were both really, really vested in the real estate community, not just in our businesses, but in community as it relates to leadership. So I was really, really involved with a lot of the boards in our organization at a local level, at a national level. And I still remember the day where I was in this board meeting, and I was already at the national level at that point, but there was like this big epiphany. And at that point, I had already been practicing a lot of like meditation work, psychotherapy, inner healing work. And I looked around me in the room that I was in, and this question just popped up in my head. And the question was like, is this your legacy? Is this what you're really here to do? And there was already kind of like this inkling guidance of like, you need to be doing something else. I've always had this calling to open a healing center and to share with the world healing modalities that have helped me so much too on my journey. And when I had that realization, it was almost like the floodgates opened, because it was just right after that moment, I had a conversation with my husband and I told him, you know what, I don't think I'm on the right path. I think that I'm investing time, a lot of time, because you know how much time we invested, money, and in an industry and in a place where it's not near and dear to my heart. And in fact, that's why it's causing me a lot of blockages now to grow and to scale, because I just wasn't willing. I didn't have that passion, right? And sure enough, I talked to my husband and he said, take the time that you need. And when he said that, I took like about a month, but within that first month, like so much started to happen. I was guided to this little town in Crestone, Colorado, that's only about 100 people population. Okay. So it's like super tiny. Went and got myself an Airbnb with my family, met some really beautiful people. I could only call them angels, I would say, like earth angels, that gave me a lot of guidance, kind of knew a lot about me. And since then, my life just went on this spiral, like this fast moving action of change and transformation. So from Creston, Colorado, within 2 months, I was on a plane to the Amazon jungle to work with plant medicines, Mother Ayahuasca, San Pedro, which indigenous people have always worked with all of their lives for healing and for expansion of consciousness and spiritual connection. I had never heard about ayahuasca, but my son, who's 15 years old soul, had done a presentation on psychedelic assisted psychotherapy in high school, and his teacher supported him so much. It was a really big, got an amazing grade, and it was something that just sparked interest in me too. And sure enough, within 2 months, it's like everything opened up and I was on my way.
So you were there, let's back up a little bit. So you were actually there 17 days.
17 days. And
so you were immersed in this whole experience.
I was. We started up in the high Andes Mountains of Cusco, and we worked with a specific plant medicine called San Pedro with indigenous shamans. We went up to temples and we had womb healing ceremonies for women. There was so much that transpired in that first part. And then they took us, we went to the jungle, and that's where we spent the rest of the 9 days. And we had 4 ceremonies. We had shamans there. There was therapy involved. And a lot of people would think that that's what really like changed my life. I was seeking a lot of healing at that point. You know, not only was it, I didn't feel in alignment with my business and what I was doing, but personally, I was trying to overcome an addiction to alcohol for a very long time. I was also, my relationships were falling apart around me. I've been married now, it's going to be 25 years. But at that point, my husband and I were going through a really hard time. My mom and I were not talking. I mean, everybody was my enemy and I wasn't the problem. And so.
Yeah. And I kind of remember, not your mom part, but the husband part. And I mean, we were in an environment which was really fast. It's even though there are a lot of women in real estate, the environment that we were on was pretty male dominated, and a lot of cocktails and a lot of, networking. And it's beautiful and it's wonderful, but it's all about money. It's all about money and who you're going to connect with to get to that next level. At least that's the way I felt. And that's also why I was like, whoa, wait a minute. This is exciting. And then it's not. It doesn't feel good, right?
It didn't feel authentic at all.
Yes. And we connected shortly after you got back from your 17 days, because I saw you on social media, I posted something about it. And I had experienced ayahuasca at a much smaller level. I mean, mine was a 2-day event in Guadalajara, Mexico. So it wasn't as intense as you did. But I remember we connected at that time to kind of share experiences. And so go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just think that whole time is fascinating, the shifts and almost kind of parallel lives that we were, in a way, kind of going in let's get away from this hustle and bustle and party and, let's look at something deeper. Let's look at something else, right?
That's exactly what happened. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. It's an industry that's masculine energy is domination with the logical mind. And I can and looking back now, I abused my power. I had power and I took advantage of it. And that was something that I had to learn to heal and learn to accept as well. And when I came back from the jungle, we did speak, and I had gone with the intention to heal my addiction with alcohol, but that did not occur. When I got back from the jungle, and this is what people don't understand with plant medicine, it's like, it could give you a psychic shock too, because it goes into the neurons of the brain where it literally like collapses all of the barriers you've put in the subconscious mind from all those traumas and things you've experienced. For me, it was incredibly scary, but I had a deep connection with my ancestors during my experience, where I was shown like past lives and why I'm here today and the karma that I'm here to break for them. But when I came back from the jungle, all of us were having near-death experience, because I didn't go by myself. I took my husband, I took my 2 sons, and we all experienced this together. Now, my youngest didn't necessarily drink, right? But he was in the environment. And quite honestly, back in the day, even 60 years ago, we were not allowed to drink. The shamans would drink, and we would be around their energy and their ikaro, and that was enough. So my son experienced it in his own way, obviously.
Right.
And when we came back, and this is the thing that our energy, which is everything's energy, emotions are energy. I was not grounded in my body. I was only in the spiritual realm. I was connecting to spirit, to God, but I could not go to work. I didn't want to go to work. I didn't want to live a normal life. And when you're not honoring your incarnation, you're a disaster, you know? And we had, all of us went through really serious near-death experiences, which drove me deeper into drinking more. And then doing the same thing that I went to the jungle for, which is heal from looking like I was this huge success on the outside, but knowing that on the inside, I was falling apart, completely falling apart.
Yeah.
And so that's when I literally, I remember the day when I collapsed on my knees and I said, well, what do I do now, God? What do I do? Because I had received so much wisdom, like the key to open the door of life, but I still had to get up every day and open that door. I'm still here in this body. And that's when one of my friends said, well, try Kundalini yoga. You know, it's really helped a couple of my friends with mental stuff, mental health, because that's what I thought I was going through. And I went to my first class and I was there alone. Nobody else was there, with this gentleman, older gentleman, with wearing all white. His head was covered, had a long beard. And I was by myself, and he started the class with these breathing techniques that, I kid you not, Gail, it was like I was back in the Malacca in the jungle. Like I was drinking Mother Ayahuasca again. From that very first experience of my first class, I grounded myself back in my body, and I was able to literally like integrate more in that one class than I had done in the 6 months that I was trying to figure out what the hell happened to me.
So it sounds like kind of it sounds like to me that when you were in the jungle, it kind of opened something up, but then you came back and weren't quite sure what to do with it, or how to get back there, or how to integrate it, right? So you're kind of left with this open vessel, and now you're just kind of like, what do I do now, right? And maybe the Kundalini rounded that learning in a way. Would that be?
That's actually pretty accurate. And I think what a lot of people are not understanding is that the energies open up in us like that all the time. This is in the East, they call it Kundalini Awakenings. And sadly, in the West, there are very many times confused with psychosis. And we put people inside of mental health institutions, and we give them pharmaceuticals. When our indigenous people, when somebody was going through a mental health problem, they didn't put them away in a room by themselves. They gathered around them. They knew that this was a disease of the community, not just the individual by himself. And they showered him with love and comprehension, because they knew also that this individual was going to come out like a great teacher and a great shaman. So it was a combination of a lot of different things. And my energy had awakened already when I was in Colorado. And when I went to ayahuasca, it was even more open, because we're like, this is basically an ancient yoga technology. We know that we live in two triangles of energy. It's the lower triangle and the upper triangle. And the upper triangle is basically your spiritual self. The lower triangle is your grounded physical human incarnation. A master like Jesus Christ or like Buddha knows how to navigate between both realms and has energy that is flowing through the system. So Dr. Joe Dispenza calls it energy centers. In the East, we call them chakras. When you've been through trauma, the physical brain, literally the brain starts to physically deteriorate, which means it doesn't have to be physical, it could be emotional, which means the glands stop working, right? So your amygdala is the little almond that actually assesses flight and flight. But if you've been to trauma, even though you're not there again, it still thinks you're there, right? So there's no magic pill to heal the amygdala. The only way we can do that is through energy, which is breathing techniques, mantra. When the brain starts to function finally correctly, it starts to secrete good chemicals to the body, not cortisol, which is a stress hormone. It starts to give it serotonin. We're a society that is completely deprived of serotonin. Two biggest ways to get serotonin is sleep and food, what you eat. However, if your emotional, if your nervous system is a mess, of course you're not going to be making good choices about the foods you're eating. And of course you're not going to be getting good sleep, right? So because we're energy fields, as you start to do the holistic work to heal the brain, to heal the nervous system, your triangles and your energy centers, which is your chakras, start to function. And they're like little brains. So as you start to do these techniques, because Kundalini yoga is a science of energy, and it's like older than religion. It's 5,000 years old. So these yogis sat in these positions, they breathed specific techniques, they chanted specific sound frequencies in order to heal nervous system, which ultimately, what is the nervous system? Metaphysically, it's consciousness. So you're expanding your consciousness so you can step outside the story of trauma identity, and you're able to then recalibrate your energy. And that's what I had to do with Kundalini yoga. When I came back, my energy fields were completely disrupted, nervous system shock, and I needed to learn to ground myself back in my body. And like I said, many people are having Kundalini awakenings. They're having spiritual awakenings, and they don't know that that's what it is. And sadly, there's a documentary on Netflix right now about how these people then sadly are then put in mental health institutions, and they're given pharmaceuticals which further doesn't help them, right? But it's several cases where it's the same thing over and over. Thankfully, I had already read about all of this, and I was because I had been practicing meditation and yoga since 2005, probably, not consistently. And different types of yogas, but nothing was like Kundalini, because Kundalini, I think people really confuse it like, oh, you're bending your body, or you're doing all these things, and
you're stretching into a pretzel.
Exactly. Like it's a really big practice of meditation, but a yogi is one that can be in the neutral mind. And so, like my practice, like I wake up every morning, 3:37 every single morning. I meditate from that time until about 6:30 in the morning. And it has nothing to do with body movements. I actually chant for 2.5 hours. And it's part of the community. We have a daily sadhana, daily virtual meditation space. And so that has allowed me to bend my body. Why? Because when you go beyond the mind, you're not a body, you can do anything. So the body is not the problem, it's your mind. If you can meditate for 2.5 hours, you can do anything with your body, or you can do anything with your business or anything with your life. So I think people just get that really confused, and they also don't see it as such a powerful healing technique. Because I had studied a lot of different healing techniques. I went throughout the world. I studied different spiritual traditions. I actually became a Reiki certified master too. But that for me was very draining. I am not a touch person. And I did use it for my sons and my husband and for myself and stuff. But for clients, I couldn't do it. They would completely me.
So I'm a Reiki master as well. I was. And the reason I share that is because I think it can be very powerful. And I found, there was something that I was missing in my training, and still today in this learning, I don't practice it, because I would find that when I would do it, I would actually absorb and pick up this negative stuff. And inevitably, always at nighttime, I'd go through nights of having nightmares. Or now I know people listening are going to think I'm nuts, but I would hear voices like talking like we're talking right now. And so the last time I did, I go, okay, that's enough. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I don't want to pick up anybody else's energy in this way, so it's probably something that I just did not learn in my training and in the process. And, but it can be very powerful as well.
It may just not be your modality either, because for me, I definitely learned that it wasn't something that I wanted to do. I'm glad I did it. Right now, Dr. Oz was talking about how they're already putting Reiki practitioners pre-op. So like if someone's going to get an operation, they're going into hospitals and they're giving them Reiki, because it's been proven. Oh yeah, it's been proven that the recovery time is like 100 times better than someone who didn't receive Reiki. So I fully believe in it. But like you, I trained myself too much. Even the work that I do right now, the Kundalini yoga therapy and the coaching, I deal with women's big, deep problems. And my number one priority is taking care of myself and staying in high frequency. So that's why I constantly travel, or I'm constantly in nature. I use tools like my tantric necklaces. These are created through Z energy that actually not only protect, but they enhance your meditation practice. But what it means to stay in high frequency is that my nervous system has to be intact. I have to be able to stay in high gratitude. I have to be able to learn to process all in neutrality, so it's a lot of people want to get into this work of helping therapy or healing. You don't want to be a unhealed healer. That's going to take a big toll on you. In fact, my favorite trauma doctor, Dr. Gabor Mate, have you read his work?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I love him so much. And he actually works with he's worked with plant medicines himself, and he works with a Kundalini yoga therapist too. And they work together for trauma. They do retreats they're doing one in India next month actually, but they've done them in Peru as well. But when he went to work with plant medicines, he tells a story about he did a retreat over there, and the shamans literally had to take him out of his own retreat because he had never cleared all the energy of all the people that he had helped all his life, because he's a physician. He's right. A therapist. So he said the shaman literally told them, our Icaros, our medicine can't even penetrate you because of all the blockages, all the stuff that you're carrying. So they had to take him to a separate room just to do special ceremony on him. And it was life-changing for him. But I think a lot of us that are in this field, first, we have to learn to get into the field, not to save others, because that's not the case. And the way Jesus Christ healed is because he saw everyone as whole and complete. He didn't see people sick. So if you do it for that reason, it could really bite you in the butt, because now you're doing it more than likely also to bypass your own healing. Right. So that can be very, very dangerous. And so I really checked. And that's why for me, the lessons that I learned in my past, like even what I told you about, like the abuse of the power that I knew that I abused the power that I had in the past, that was so valuable, because now as I receive this beautiful channeling energy and this power and the healing that happens with my clients, I know it's not me. And it used to cause me a lot of fear because I was afraid that I would abuse it. You still hear all of these people, the spiritual people that still have a human spirit that still, take advantage or do things like that. But because I went through what I went through, I have such a deep relationship with God that I can always not only say I receive, but I always ask, is this a miracle I'm supposed to be performing or not? Always.
Okay. So do you find that you use the word miracle. Do you find that you participate in miracles?
I feel like I don't participate. I'm just like the vessel that they flow through. Because a lot of the times when I'm doing my psychotherapy classes and stuff, I'll watch the replays, Gail, and I don't remember saying any of that stuff. It's something that was said through me that's it, that I don't know how that happened. And that has happened a lot because I've done a lot of healing work to learn to accept myself, to learn to know myself, that's my daily practice of meditation, to know my shadows. So that if I know my shadows, I'm not projecting them out into someone else, into the world. So the work that I do now is very interesting. You would think it'd be easier, but it's actually very challenging because you yourself have to make sure your nervous system is stable. You're keeping yourself, it's like an athlete, like an athlete has to go to the gym every day, has to go to even when the other players are not, like if you want to be good, you have to do certain things.
So how important is it, do you believe, to actually know yourself, to love yourself, how important is that?
That is the most important thing in the world. That was another thing that Dr. Gabor Mate said. He said that, first of all, stress kills us, right? And the number one stress we have as individuals is not being ourselves. And indigenous people would always, that was the whole thing. It's not go become someone, it's be you. Be you. And why are we not ourselves? Well, we're not ourselves because we live in a society that has told us growing up as a young girl, be quiet, don't be loud, don't cry, don't be angry, perfect little child, right? Because that's what society expects of you. There's nothing wrong with crying. There's nothing wrong with being angry. It's if you stay in it, right? Trauma, what's trauma? And this is where the ancestral stuff came back for me a lot, because I had been repeating a lot of traumatic karmic cycles. It gets repeated in the genes. So very few diseases are actually genetic. When I came back from the the jungle, I received messages that I was repeating a lot of karma from my specific ancestors, and I knew who they were. Addiction, relationship issues. When I came back, I was obsessed with figuring this out. So I started to research, and I found Dr. Bruce Lipton. I don't know if you know who that is.
I love Bruce Lipton.
Yes. Okay, so he writes about behavioral epigenetics, and I started to study behavioral epigenetics, and I started to research ancestral karma, and I was like, oh my God, this is serious, and nobody's doing this work. And that's when I started to implement these specific Kundalini meditations to help me with it, because what we don't know is that very few diseases actually are genetic. However, what is genetic and what we don't realize is our the coping mechanisms of our ancestors and how they dealt with trauma, that is genetic. So what happens is, let's say your grandmother went through a very traumatic experience in her life, or even someone you don't remember, a great, great, great grandmother, right? What scientists have found out is that through epigenetics is that it's not that the gene actually mutates and change, it's that it actually becomes more predisposed to addiction, like the obesity gene or the addiction gene. So this means that if you, even though your grandmother went through the Holocaust 3 years ago, if you go through something traumatic in your life right now, even if you had a really good childhood, like which is what happened to this one doctor that I was just recently researching, where great childhood, father dies, and now she goes into a deep addiction and is a heroin addict. Why? Even though she had a good childhood, there's trauma from the ancestors that predisposed, that made that gene predispose more easily than someone who hadn't had that trauma to addiction, to the actual obesity problems.
So how does she move forward to release that?
And that's where the Kundalini technology and the psychotherapy actually came in for me. Kundalini technology, it deals with the root. So what is the root? It's the energy. So our DNA, what we know in yogic science is that that is considered basically your subtle body. So when you're born into this world, you have a soul, right? That's God herself experiencing herself through you. With that soul, there's 10 other energetic bodies. One of them is known as a subtle body. This subtle body carries what is known as samskaras. Those are the scars. That is your DNA. Mm. Everything in this world is sound. Your traumas were installed in your magnetic field through sound. In order for us to change the frequency, your neuroses, your fears, your addictions, they carry a specific rhythm. They carry a frequency. In order for us to actually do that, we have to go into that and install a new sound frequency. So what we do, and this is where my chanting comes in every morning, and it's not, see, people trust affirmations, but you have to understand that affirmations, they're powerful, super powerful, but affirmations are using the English language. The English language was created many times to actually cover up a lot of the wisdom. That's why Jesus Christ spoke in parables, right? So this sound frequency is not a language. It's an actual science of energy that is basically accelerates and changes the rhythm of your subconscious mind patterns, the 95% of your program, which is your thoughts, your feelings, and emotions. That's a vibration that you're projecting now, which is creating a reality. When you install a new sound frequency, these sacred sound frequencies through chanting, through breath, there's a specific meditation for clearing ancestral karma in Kundalini Yoga. Then what happens is now you're now neurosis, you're not in that rhythm anymore. You're now aligning from karma, which is unconscious action, that there's a reaction, to dharma. That's our life purpose. It's what you just asked right now, to get to know ourselves, to accept ourselves. And then instead of repeating the karmic patterns of your ancestors, now you're in dharma, which is, why is your soul even here? And it's not light and love, like new age propaganda. Like literally, have you asked yourself, like, why am I really here? And I don't think a lot of us even feel worthy enough to ask that question. And it all goes back to those programs of the trauma of our ancestors that we haven't dealt with. Because we have to honor our past in order to be able to move to the forward future. That's just it.
Veronica, do you know why you're here?
I do. I am here.
Can you share that? Yeah.
I am here to disrupt ancestral karmic patterns and expand upon my ancestors' gifts. And to bring others along the ride that actually want to do that too.
Wow. Wow. And you can tell just by your face and your energy and everything that that's really so true to you. Look at you.
I'm so passionate about it. It was so foggy when I came back, and it felt like such a, like, you know, one of those intentions that how is this even going to happen? But yeah. You know, one of the things that has happened to me in the last few years is the humility, like so much humility, just because of the way God has, and, you know, even if you don't believe in God, it's the highest version of who you are, right? But I guess when you heal your inner child and you heal your ancestral karma stuff, you can be curious again, and you can live with an open heart again. You don't have to live hard and defensive and scared of life.
Yeah, that's something that we talked about when we reconnected was, and I mean, you're very beautiful, and you were beautiful then, and you're beautiful now. But there is a certain softness and light about you that I didn't see back when we were, pounding the pavement and pounding the cocktails and the meetings and all that stuff. It was just this different, let's get it done, let's go, let's get it done kind of a thing. And now you have all this beautiful, soft, feminine, powerful, feminine energy that just kind of, radiates from you. It's really lovely to see.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. And same with you. I mean, you've totally transformed. I can see your whole face too. It's different.
Yeah, it's older too.
Not at
Well,
all.
as we all are, right? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, did you feel that your experience with ayahuasca was something that changed your life? Or because I feel like a lot of people are really interested in that right now. And I really think that we more of us need to kind of like talk about the truth of it so people don't feel like it's like a one stop, like magic pill. You know what I mean?
Well, I didn't my experience was not as immersive as yours.
Mm.
It was a good experience. It had like the scary and it transcended to something beautiful at the end. And for me, the messaging at the end was all there is love. The only thing that matters is love. And it was like loud and clear, so after that, there was this peacefulness that I still have, just because it's a total knowing that at the end of the day, that's all that matters is love. And my belief is that we're all part of one big love. We're not individual, right? We're the ones that separate ourselves, and all these layers that we have that keep our mind busy and our mind unhappy perhaps, or searching in a certain direction that might not be the direction that really benefits us, right? So when we're able to shed those skins and unveil ourselves, then all there is love. That's it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's a work. It's a thing I still work on every single day.
Yeah, for sure. Every day is definitely a practice in forgiveness, is what I call it.
Now, I'm curious about your near-death experience. Would you share that?
Sure. So when I came back, like I said, I was still going through so many different things, and I was just involved in it was a series of events that were already telling me that I needed to like leave real estate altogether. And when you don't pay attention to God on the whisper, you want to listen to God on the whisper, not on the shout. And so
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I learned the hard way on that one.
Yeah.
But just coming back, it was really, really horrible. And I was involved in a really bad car accident. And it was miraculous how everything happened, like even surviving. Like it was so bizarre, but it was a very obvious message. Like God was like, I'm leaving you here, and I'm leaving you here for a very big reason. And that's when I went to a retreat right after that, to a silent retreat, and within a Kundalini Yoga silent retreat, and within a week, I said, I'm leaving real estate, I'm out. And that's when I just did it, because I knew that I was just being called to do something else. And it's not like it's been like leaving real estate. I was so happy, and everything. It hasn't been a walk in the park, but the only reason it wasn't a walk in the park the first year was because, again, I wouldn't surrender to my Dharma. I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to help women break ancestral karmic patterns? I knew I did it for myself, certain things, but I didn't logical mind, like how? And so I'm learning more and more to just get out of the way and to just be more humble and listen to that guidance. And that's your intuition. All of us have it. We all have intuition, and it's
just listening, right? Tuning into it and listening to it.
That's it. And we just
sometimes our ego is shouting over it, right? Our ego is louder over the intuition and what we really know we're supposed to do or what's next.
Yeah, and those are emotions, right? So as I learned to stabilize my nervous system and my emotions and process them, because that's what I do every morning. And it's not like every morning I'm having a divine meeting with God. Like there are mornings where I'm crying. There are mornings where I'm angry. There are mornings where I'm processing the human experience. My grandmother just passed away. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not, we don't do this work so our life is perfect. That would be ridiculous. My life is perfect because I don't have a judgmental mind. You know what I mean? So we do this work, first of all, to have chi and energy, because we're a society that is stuck on cold brew and coffee, the serotonin issue, And so with chanting, the inhaling, it's called the vocal toning, and it's the most powerful form of self-healing. There's nothing more powerful for healing than your own voice, period. So when you're chanting, you're taking in inhales, and that is like drinking coffee because you're basically taking in chi. So stress is not bad. It's just, what are you going to do with it, right? So
Right.
if you're a badass in your business and everybody's demanding you, then you need more chi. I mean, I have the strong practice. My husband has a strong practice. My boys have a strong practice. Like, and I didn't force them. It's because they watched me. Like, never did I ever say you have to meditate or anything like that. My teacher actually told me that because I was like, how do I get them to meditate? And
Yeah.
he was like, don't tell them anything. Like, let you do you, and they'll watch, and then
Let
they'll
them
follow.
watch.
Exactly. So that energy helps me every day to deal with the stresses of the day. And like I said, every day is a day of forgiveness. Every day is, what I am a lot better at is way more compassionate and kinder to myself. Way more, which enables me to truly be able to be that to others too.
So you have a coaching practice,
Yes.
right? Yes. And in fact, your website, I love it. It's Veronica Barragan, I am, right? Mm-hmm. Which I love that. And that ties into the I am, to who you are, is my guess, right? Mm-hmm. And you talk, I think I read on there's a 3-step framework. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh yeah. So they can actually, there's a free master class that they can join. It's about a 55 minutes long, and it basically goes over the actual, what is ancestral karma? How does it show up in our lives? And then it gives you my exact 3-step framework of what I did to heal it. Yes, I call it the SWC method, which is what I teach inside of the academy. And yeah, an hour long, it'll give you some really good insight into like where you're at in the journey, if this is something that resonates. And it'll also give you some really good tools, like some of these meditations that I was talking to you about. In fact, like my ancestral karmic meditation, it's on my YouTube channel. So if anybody wants to go download it. The key is, ladies, if you're going to start this work, give yourself a minimum of 40 days with each meditation. Don't try to do like 5 meditations at the same time. One meditation, 40 days, we've scanned the brains of meditators with this practice, and the gray area actually starts to dissolve, and we start to see the red and the sponginess of the brain come back versus the prune, dry stuff that happens because of the trauma. And
so let's back up a little bit. Which meditations they're on when you sign up for they're part of the master class, or which meditations?
In the master class, it'll show you, give you the 3 tools as well, or how the 3 framework, as well as what you can do to start the process. And then on my YouTube channel, the actual ancestral karmic meditation that I did is on there. So you can.
So how do you find your YouTube channel?
You can just Veronica Barragan. I sent you the link. It doesn't have its own little link thing, but Veronica Barragan, and you'll find me right there. And I'll send you.
Okay. And I will post that in the show notes. I'm just, for anybody that's listening to this. And it's Barragan, in case you didn't get this. Or Barragan.
Yeah, there you go.
So
you can roll the R's.
Yeah.
and you'll see me on there, as well as my spiritual name is Jyoti Rajiv Kaur. So when I was, you initiate yourself. Nobody initiates you. But when I became a teacher, I applied.
Kundalini, or is this a teacher? Yes. Okay.
Kundalini yoga. When I became a teacher, I applied. There's a specific person that was given this gift to be able to do that, and I received my spiritual name. So I use it a lot too, especially when I teach, because it helps me ego aside and just kind of get centered.
Yeah.
But you'll find me there as well. But Veronica Barragan, you can just search that, and it's on their Ancestral. I'll even send you the exact link to that meditation if you like it.
Oh, perfect. And we're going to include that in the show notes for anybody that's interested. Sovereign woman. So the SW is sovereign woman, right? What does that mean?
So to me, a sovereign woman is one that is not basically swayed or destroyed by the outer forces. Sovereignty is about discernment, intuition, power, and balance, both in masculine and feminine. So it's one that has taken the approach to disrupt these ancestral karmic patterns and to create a beautiful legacy for her lineage.
Wow. Well, Veronica, if there was, this is the I Love Me Laugh podcast, and if there was one word of wisdom, and you've shared a lot of wisdom, and I want to thank you for that you could share with our listeners, what would be that one thing that they could take away from today?
I think the one thing that I would say is that everything in this world is healable. Everything. It does not matter what you've been through, what your ancestors have been through, what your parents have been through. It is, you are worthy of this healing. And especially if you're listening to this right now, not only are you worthy, but you're ready. So it just starts with the first step of realizing that there's tools out there to help you and to reaching out for help, because not only are you worthy, but your children are worthy and your future generations are worthy. So it doesn't matter what it is healable, I promise. Because if I did it, so can you.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. So if anybody wants to reach out to Veronica Barragan, you go ahead and your website is
Veronica Barragan, RRIM.com, and you'll find everything in there, resources and stuff like that.
Perfect. And I checked it out. It's a beautiful website. And I'm going to look you up on YouTube as well. And you have a podcast, I believe. Yes.
The
Sovereign. What's the name of your podcast?
So you can find us on Apple as well, Sovereign, or all wherever podcasts are streamed, Sovereign Woman Movement. And there I share more on ancestral guidance and all the good stuff.
That's beautiful. It was so wonderful to see you again and to see how beautiful you're doing. And thank you for sharing your story and your message. And I am very much looking forward to actually staying in touch with you, my friend, and just to kind of supporting each other as we go along and learning from you as well.
For sure. Same. Likewise. Thank you so much. It was an honor.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening.
Bye-bye.
Until next time.
Thanks so much for listening to this conversation. If you enjoyed it and want more information on our guests and resources, please visit ilovemelab.com. And please, if you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share with a friend. Hey, there's more great episodes to come. So until next time.